Everyone, welcome back to Java tutorials. In this tutorial, I'm gonna show how to install Java JDK and also set up for your environment variables. To install JDK in your system, open any of your favorite browser and type Java JDK downloads. Click on this link. Then click on the JDK download button. Select the option based on your need. For example, here I am using Windows 64-bit operating system. So I'm gonna download this link. You have to accept and click the download link. After downloading the link, it takes a couple of minutes to download. After that, you have to open the downloads and click on the link, extract all the files and choose the location where you want to save JDK files. So I already installed this in my laptop, so that's the reason I'm not gonna extract again. Whether you want to save in the C drive or desktop, but C drive is preferable all the time. Select the folder and save OK, that's it. Now I will show you in my laptop where I save my files. Here is my JDK. That's very easy, right? Now we are done with the Java JDK installation part. The second part in this tutorial is setting environment variables for Windows. For this, open the command prompt and type javac. You can see like javac is not recognized as an internal or external command because you need to still set up the path to environment variables. Let's go to the place where we install Java JDK. Open this one and you can see the bin folder here. So we need this path exactly to reach the environment variables. Right click on anywhere in the screen. Click with properties. Then click on advanced system settings. There you can see environment variables. Here you need to add this variable name and values. So I already have that one. Let me check. Yeah, this one. So the link which I copied earlier, make sure you have everything and say OK. Or if you are starting new, you have to click on new and give some name, like for example path. Paste the link here and say OK. That's it. Just open the command prompt again. Type the javac. Let's see. You can see some messages now. Then type some java/version. You can also see the version. So that's it. Now you are done with Java JDK and also set up with environment variables. You are ready to start the Java program. Hey, welcome back to Java tutorials. In this tutorial, you are gonna see one simple program how to run using Notepad. In the last tutorials, we learned how to install Java JDK and set up your environment variables. First of all, let's see how the Java program is executed. In order to execute the Java program, we need to write. First of all, for that we need editor. After writing the code, we need to compile that code, right? So we need compiler. In order to compile Java program, we need a tool called as javac. This one is provided by JDK. Then after compilation, we need to run the code, right? So for this, we need a JRE. In the JRE, we need JVM. All these terminologies I'm gonna discuss in my next class. But today's video I'll show you how to execute a simple program. Here I am writing some simple program. No need to worry about the things now. I will explain it later. In this program I am printing some statement. This is common mistake everyone make. Just make sure while saving your file, save the file with the extension of Java. Copy the location where you save the text file. Open the command prompt and give the path where you created the text file and type javac for compiling the Java code and give the name of the file along with .java. Then it compiles. If nothing is shown means it's compiled. Next, run the program. Give Java and name of the notepad. Extension is .java. Look here, you can see the output hello world. So you need to be very clear about the syntax, because if you write some small thing also it doesn't show up, means it doesn't compile or run. Just make sure, like for compiling you have to give javac. This is the name of the document. This is extension, you need to add this one. For running you need to give java demo. Demo is like a notepad name. This is again the extension. You have to follow the same exact syntax for compiling the program. In my next lecture I will show you how to write the program in IDE, because it is very hard and difficult to write and debug the code here. Hi, welcome back to Java Tutorials. In this tutorial I will show you how to install IDE and IntelliJ. The last program we have seen how to write a simple program using Notepad. It's very hard to write program if you have like very lengthy 1,000 lines or more. It's also very difficult to debug the code, and we need to compile the code every time if you run the program using Notepad. But if you use the any IDs, you have an incremental compiler that automatically compiles your code whenever changes are done. So you don't need to compile the code. In my tutorials, I'm gonna use IntelliJ IDE, and I will also show you how to install Eclipse. I feel like IntelliJ is far advanced and better IDE, but you can write in Eclipse as well. But wherever you write, the code is gonna be same. Let's see how to install the IDs. Before that, you have to install JDK. If you haven't installed that one, please check out my previous video. In order to install Eclipse IDE, first you have to open any browser. There type Eclipse download. Click the link. There you can see download packages. Click that one. Now you're having all options like Windows, Mac. And also your selection is based on your Windows operating systems. Select that one. Click on download. Once the download is complete, just open the folder and extract the files and save wherever you want. And this is the one I already installed in my laptop. If you can see the properties, you can see the file location where I saved my file. In that file also you can see all this stuff. Eclipse, and if you open this one, your IDE is gonna be open. It will also ask the workspace. If you want to download or if you want to make a copy, you can go over there. Basically workspace is like where you are saving all your files. Just launch it. The IDE is going to be open now. So this is the screen you are going to see once you are done with your installation stuff. Project structure is like this. Every time whenever you write the program, first you need to create the mm, project. After that you need to write the Java code. Uh, this I'm gonna share like a demo project. Apart from this, you don't need to write anything. Just say finish. Just name a new package. Just write the simple code, hello world, and click on the run button here. There you can see the hello world. So how simple it is when compared to Notepad. There is another way to run the program. Just after writing the program, you need to save it. Right click and say run Java application. That's it. You can see hello new Java developers. This is the how you need to write the program in Java Eclipse. So first you need to create a project. In that you need to create a package. Then you can create a file, also called as Java class, and write the program, save it and run. That's it. It's so simple. The next part is how to install the IntelliJ IDE and how to write a demo program. For that you need to type IntelliJ IDE download. This is the official link. Click the link. In IntelliJ IDE you can see the two versions. The first one is Ultimate and second one is Community. For this Ultimate version you have to pay after 13 days. So we don't need to install right now. For your practice purpose, and it's better to use the community version. If you like it, you can pay after 30 days, but it's up to you, whatever you want. For my demo, I'm showing installing this community version. After clicking this download button, immediately you can see the installing the software. It will take for a while to install. This is the one I already installed in my laptop. If you go over the properties, you can see the file location where I installed, and this is the one I installed where you can see all these files. Once you're done with the download, click on the download one. It will say, do you want to allow this app to make changes to your device? Say yes and say next, next. Then it will also pop up a window like, do you want to install icon on your desktop? If you want this desktop icon option, you have to say that one, because I don't want to install again in my laptop. You have to say next, next, next and say OK. That's it. You can open here or you can go over the files where you saved. From there also you can open this one. You'll see like you can create a project, because this ID supports a lot of the stuff. You have to select the Java, then go on next, next. Give the project name. Project name is like Java demo. You can give any name. Finish. Click on this window, then it will pop here. Right click on the project and give module name. Click on the module, then say next, then give any other name like a demo one. Say finish. Click on the module. If you open the demo one, you can see SRC. SRC is where you write you can store all your files. Because if you are watching as a beginner, it's gonna be tricky for the first class. But in this tutorial, I'm not teaching any code, installation and demo how to run a program. So don't worry, just focus on what I'm doing. That's it. Click on SRC new and Java class. Give the class name, test, then I'm just copying the file, save it, and right click the program and run test.main. Immediately you can see the output here. You can also run the program using this icon, run. These two IDs are my favorite IDs. As you use more IDs, it's gonna be benefit for you because you will get hands-on experience with different IDs. But the code is same, there is nothing different from if you change the IDs. Whatever ID you are comfortable, you can go ahead with continue. Hey, welcome back to Java tutorials. In this tutorial, you are gonna see the difference between JDK, JRE and JVM. JDK is a software development environment for developers. JRE means Java Runtime Environment, which provides the minimum requirements for executing any Java application like libraries, classes, files, etc. JVM is Java Virtual Machine. It does translates the code into bytecode. So it creates the class file basically. So machine understands the bytecode for execution, not the source code. Once the code is executed, then it translates the bytecode into native code. To understand better about all these terminologies, we should know how the code is executed first. After writing the code, then the code is converted into bytecode. Javac is a tool. This converts the machine code into bytecode. After execution, again JVM converted the bytecode into the machine code. Because as I said earlier, the system only understands the bytecode, not the source code. So JVM means Java Virtual Machine. We need this one for compilation. Apart from that, we also need some libraries and core classes and files to have the runtime environment. That is going to be have JRE. As a developer, we also need a development tool to develop the software. If you add this development tool, we will get the complete package named as JDK. This is the difference between JVM, JRE and JDK. Hi, welcome back to Java tutorials. In this tutorial, you are gonna learn about what is a main method in Java. This is the first and basic program in Java. Before start writing and understanding other concepts, let's look into the basic program first. So here you can see public hello world and main method and one print statement here. So what is this public? Public means access modifier. Hello world is the class name here. This is also access modifier. And static is the keyword. Void is the return type. Main is the method here. String is data type. Args is the arguments. This system.out.println is the print stream. It prints the result whatever is there in inside. So this hello world program prints the hello world in the console. So far we have seen all other terminologies. Let's understand what is those terminologies now. Public is the access modifier. So if you use the public as access modifier, so that all other classes can access it. If you use the private, so there are certain limitations, right? We'll talk about later in that concept, but here you have to understand what is public. And let's see the static keyword. This is the static method. We can run this method without creating instance of a class, means we can run it directly. The next keyword is void. Void is the return type. So if you give the void, it doesn't return anything. Main is again name of the method. String is data type. This array indicates an array type, and args means number of arguments it accepts. This is just basic review of the all keywords. I know it's very hard to understand now, but you will catch up all the concepts once we enter into the programming. Now it's time to understand the coding part as well. Let's move on. As we discussed so far, this is the first program in Java. If you run the code, it executes hello world, right? So what if you don't have any class here? So it throws the compile time error, right? Immediately all the red lines will show up. So to run a program, we definitely need the class name. Can you see here I gave the hello world class name. If you change the class name here, then it shows the error because the name you gave before while creating the class and here should be the same. Now let's remove the access modifier public here. If you compile, it's still compiling, but let's see. If you run the code, it immediately throws the error. This is runtime error. If you get while compiling the error, that is compile time error, the error comes after running the code, that is called as runtime error. We have again a big concept called exception handling. We'll talk more about while discussing that topic. Now if you don't have public access modifier here, it's showing like main method not found in class. What if you remove the data type here? It immediately shows the compile time error. Now let's see. I'm gonna remove this print stream. Will it execute? Let's see. The code executes and runs perfectly, but when you see in the console there is nothing to show, means it's just empty Java program. I can also say one thing, because Java is a object-oriented programming language, all the code is encapsulated inside a class. You'll see now, right? This is the class. We are encapsulating, means putting everything inside. This is called as object-oriented. Hi, welcome back to Java tutorials. In this tutorial, you are gonna see what is variable in Java, and also final keyword, Java identifiers, and types of variables in Java. Basically, variable is nothing but a storage area inside the main memory. Suppose you can see this is the main memory. We are allocating one space here and we are assigning a variable here. So this is the example. Int a equal to 10. 10 is the assigned value. Variables are always assigned with data types. Here int is the data type. We will see that in my next class. We can do some simple math calculations here. If a is 10, b is 20, c is 50, we can do simple math calculation here easily, right? But what about if the number is like this? So if all numbers is like this, is it easy to do math calculation? No, right? And there are going to be typo mistakes and it's lot of confusion also. So these variables are like makes us easy to write the code. Do you understand now what is variable? It's easy, right? So now let's practice more code. You need to practice more code and you have to understand the concepts. This is the main logic behind the programming. Now let's practice some of the examples. Integer a equal to 10, integer b equal to suppose 20, int c equal to a plus b. Let's print it. System.out.println c. Now you can see 30 is printing here. Means it does the calculation and printing. This one we will call as variable creation. Can anyone guess what is this C? Because this is the variable creation. This one is calling a variable. Suppose if you are not giving anything here, the code compiles and runs, but there is no output here. Even though you are doing all math calculations here, if you are not calling anything, it's not gonna give the answer. So you have to understand how to call anything what we created earlier, means methods, variables, etc. Now I am saving the code again. If you print, again you will see 30 here. Now let's see the concept called Java identifiers. Because Java is identifying uniquely, means you are not gonna give any duplicate or you are not gonna assign any variable duplicates. Let's see here, because you gave already int a and b variables here. If you want to create again a variable, it shows the error. Variable a is already defined in the scope. Should not give the same name again. This is called as giving unique names. The concept is Java identifier. We will also see some places as final variable. Final variable means once you create it, you cannot change the variable. So this we will see again while discussing type of variables, like as I said earlier, instance, local, static, parameter, variable types are there in Java. I know I'm saying many times we will see the topic later, because I wanted you to understand the basic level and from basic level to again expert level. So that's the reason I'm teaching all basics now. I hope you enjoy watching my tutorials. Hey, welcome back to Java tutorials. In this tutorial, you will learn what is comments and semicolon in Java. In our previous example, we have declared some variables. You can see there every line end up with a semicolon. So the Java statements always ends up with semicolon. Suppose if you don't give any semicolon, it shows the compile time error. You can see now, right? And it won't run also, because if it's not compiled, obviously it won't run. Look, Java is expecting semicolon. So you have to give the semicolon, then everything will be good. So the basic rule is that the declaration and expression statements must end up with a semicolon. Now we will see what is comments in Java. Comments are useful to explain the code. Suppose you have written the code here. If someone want to understand, instead of looking the entire code, if you give the description, they easily understand. This code prints addition of 2. So in this example, you have only two variables. That's why we easily look into the code and understand. What if suppose the code is very big, instead of looking everything and understanding the code, if you give the any comment, it's easy to understand for any viewer, because you know, like you created, so you easily explain the code. If someone wants to see the code or someone wants to understand, for them it's easy to understand if you give the right comments and proper description. Now let's see the types of comments. We have like two types, like one is single line, as you are looking here. This is the single line comment, two backslashes and followed by information. This is the double line comment. We have another way for double line comments. That one is backslash and star. Look, if you give the backslash and star, all the code is like disabled, means Java recognizing everything as a comment. So you have to close the comment, then only it understand like up to where this is the comment is. So look, now all the code is back. This is the double line comment. Double line means not just double line, you can give how many sentences you want. Hi, welcome back to Java tutorials. In this tutorial you are gonna learn about what is data types in Java. Data types are always associated with a variables. So if you haven't looked my previous video, please check it out. The video link is providing in the description box, because this is a sequence of learning. Data types are like specifies the different size and values that can stored in a variable. So if while you are giving the variable, depends on our business requirement, we are giving the data types here. Means we have to provide the data types. Broadly we have two data types in Java. One is primitive data type, other one is non-primitive data type. First let's look into the primitive data types. These 8 data types are primitive data types. We'll see like byte, short, int means integer, long, float, double, boolean, char means character. There are 4 types of non-primitive data types: strings, arrays, classes and interfaces. Now let's look into the difference between what is primitive and non-primitive data types. Primitive data types are already defined in Java. If you can see non-primitive data types, these are created by the programmers, except strings. Strings already supported by Java, but except strings, a programmer need to create. These non-primitive data types used to call methods. Those kind of operations we are not gonna perform with data types, means primitive data types. These non-primitive data types we will see in OOPS concepts, means object-oriented programming concepts. In this tutorial we will see primitive data types. The first primitive data type is byte. The size it occupies 1 byte and stores whole numbers starting from -128 to 127. These byte, short, int, long data types useful to store the whole numbers, means no fraction numbers. Using bytes we can save the space, means it uses less memory, right? It only uses 1 byte. Now let's go on to the second data type, short. It occupies 2 bytes and it stores these numbers, again whole numbers. The size of the short is smaller than the integer and it saves the memory just like byte. Now let's see integer data types. This is most popular and generally used data type in Java for storing integral values, means like whole values. This integer occupies 4 bytes and it stores the numbers, more numbers than short and byte. When we use long data type, means when we need long storage or long range of numbers, we will go with this long, because when we go with banks or any organizations or companies, we definitely go with the large range means this data type. So far we have seen only for whole numbers. Whole numbers means there is no fractions. This float and double is useful for storing fractional values. Float is like similar to integer in respect to bytes and storage value. Double is like similar to long again, but only difference is it stores the fractional values. Again depends on the requirement, we will choose the float and double. Now let's go on to the seventh one, boolean. Boolean means it returns only true or false, means it stores only the value true or false. The size of the boolean is only 1 bit. The last data type is character, that is like char, char. Be careful with the words and spellings. All the words, all the keywords already defined by Java. So finally last one is char. Char is used to store characters and ASCII values. That's all for today's tutorial. We'll see more examples in the next video. Hi, welcome back to Java tutorial. In the last tutorial we have seen data types and what are the primitive and non-primitive data types. In this tutorial you will see some coding examples for primitive data types. Let's declare a variable byte called 20. So we miss the semicolon, it immediately throws the compile time error. Next, if I give b equal to 20,000, it immediately throws compile time error. Because the byte range is very small, so the system suggesting use integer instead of byte. Before going further, let's have the main method first and keep the code over there. Let's print the C value here. Now let's run the code. You can see the C value now. You can see the C value here. So what if I change the type here? Let's see. It still accepts, but the output is giving in float type, means fractional value. So suppose we'll give the again one more integer. Can you see now? Because we gave here as float, it's not accepting now. It's expecting please provide float data type. So now we understand there is a problem here. So give back as a float, then it's okay. Let's run the code and give E here and let's run. You got the output. Suppose boolean my bool equal to true. To print my bool then it prints true here. This is some simple example for boolean. Let's go over for string now. In string we can take the text, but it should be in double quotations. To let's run the code again. You see that now the text is printing. Now let's see the character. Character my letter equal to suppose D. It prints the D here. What if we give the double quotation? Let's see. Because if you give the double quotation, it automatically thinks as a string. That's why it's throwing the error. When you are dealing with char data types, you should be very careful. Give the single quotations. Let's also declare some float values here. Look here, if you are giving as a 10 whole number for the float, still it understands as 10.00. That's why it's not throwing the error. It is also equivalent to this now. Whatever you are giving, it's understanding. But if you change something here for integer, it throws the compile time error, so you need to change the data type. Now let's do some comparisons. These examples we will see more once we discussed about the topic called operators. Just for time being, I am showing some examples now. We have A and B here, so A is 20 and B is 20,000. It prints the boolean now. A is smaller than B, that's why boolean means true or false. Here A is smaller than B, that's why it's printing false. Please don't confuse here. The first row is came from the data type here, and the second one is from the comparison.
Hi, welcome back to Java tutorials. In this tutorial, you will learn about operator in Java and types of operators we generally use in Java. Operators are used to perform operations on variables and values. So, to perform any operations, we need operators. Now, let's talk about types of operators. The first one is arithmetic operator. These are used to perform mathematical operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division and modulus. Modulus returns the division remainder and plus is addition. If you take this same symbol when you are dealing with the strings, then this one performs concatenation operations. Concatenation means it just adds two strings. Suppose if you have hi and second string is everyone, if you concatenate, it prints all together. The second type of operators are relational operators. Relational operators does binary operations, means it prints the boolean value. Boolean means true or false. It does comparisons and prints whether the statement is true or false. The type of relational operations are greater than equal to, less than or equal to, not equal to. This is equal to. Equal to means it compares whether both are equal or not. The third one is logical operator. It also does the comparison, but it compares two or more conditions and returns boolean value. The logical operators are and, or, not, and returns true value if all conditions are true. Or, this is the symbol for or. It returns true if any one condition among them is true. And the next one is not. It returns true if the statement is false. It also returns false if the statement is true. This one is very useful if you want to do more comparisons. The next operator in Java is assignment operator. Assignment means equal symbol, just one equal symbol. If it is two equal symbols, we already discussed this is comparison. Suppose int a equal to 10, int c equal to a, even though you are not assigning any value here. This is the benefit of assignment operator. The next one in Java is instance of operator. Instance is a keyword which we use in Java. It also does the comparison and returns the boolean value. But this one is used once we started with methods and constructors concepts. Next one is unary operator. Unary operator does increment and decrement. Increment means it increases one value and decrement means it reduces to another value. For example, we have taken a is 10 over there. If you give like a plus plus, it takes as 11. So this plus plus is increment operator and minus minus is decrement operator. The last one in today's tutorial is ternary operator. It is also like a conditional operator. We can also say this is the shortcut of if and else statements. It takes three operations. It takes three operands and returns the expression which is true. Suppose here we are giving expression and this question mark is ternary operator. This one and this one is ternary operators. If expression is true, then it prints true value, means whatever is there in the expression. If expression is false, it prints this value. This one is just brief review of operators in Java. In my next tutorial, we will see each one by one and some coding examples. Hey, welcome back to Java tutorials. In this tutorial, you will learn what is if else and else if statements. These if else statements are useful for logical comparisons. It also helps to make decisions. Now let's see what is if and else. If checks the condition. If the condition is true, then it performs the operation whatever is there here. If statement is false, it immediately goes to else. So here if having condition but else it doesn't have any condition, it comes into the picture when if condition is false. Now let's see what is else if. If checks the condition, right? So if that condition is false, then if else also checks again new condition. Suppose if and if else both conditions are false, then else comes into the picture. This is the hierarchy. If condition is true, then it will execute this part. If this is false, then immediately if else comes into the picture. Then it also checks the condition. If this condition is true, then the system executes this one. If both conditions false, then the system executes else.
We can also have more else if conditions here.
Now let's understand the same concept in coding.
Now let's understand what is if else if statements in Java using one example. So here I have taken a class and main method. Let's take one integer, int n equal to 30. Now if statement, then put a condition there. Suppose n is greater than 0. We'll give a print statement, n is positive number. We need not to give any condition over here. N is negative. What if we give condition here? Let's see. Now it is giving compile time error. If you give else if, it's not showing any error now. Let's remove the condition and execute the program. So the console gives us n is positive number. If suppose n is minus 30, let's rerun the code. It prints n is negative number. So what if does? If statement checks the condition. If the condition is true, it executes the part whatever is there. If this condition is false, then it move on to the else and it prints this one. Now let's see what is else if. Look, if you give else if, it's asking condition here. That's why it's giving the compile time error. So you need to give a condition here. Suppose n equals to 0. This equals is the comparison operator. We'll talk about that in next lecture. This n equals to is the comparator. It compares the value. Let's write else statement. Let's run the code. The output is like negative, right? Now let's give the positive number. Then the console prints n is positive. Let's run n is 0. Obviously it prints n is 0. This is the way if and else statement works. Hey, welcome back to Java tutorials. In our last tutorial we have seen what is if, else and else if statements. In this tutorial we will see whether the character is consonant or vowel. The vowels are A, E, I, O, U. Now let's find out the given letter is vowel or consonant using if and else statement. For example, character equals to K. I'm giving the if statement here. If character equals to A, character equals to E or I, O, U. So I gave the condition. I provided all the vowels here. If the character is vowel, now we want a output as character is vowel. Else character is consonant. This ch here we are calling a variable here. So this one is k and this is the string. We are concatenating both. Now let's run the code. Let's see, k is consonant. Let's give the space to understand much better. Let's run the code again. Let's give A now. And it means A is vowel. Just for understanding, I gave a space here so that you can see space here as well. If you want to give a quotation, you can give a quotation here. Let's see, A is vowel. We also used OR operator here. If the OR operator returns true, if any one of these conditions true. If you want to check with capital letters also, you can check with capital letters. If you want to check both, you can add more characters here. That's very simple, similar to what we did now. Hey, welcome back to Java tutorials. In this tutorial, you'll see what is arithmetic operators and we will also explore some code. The arithmetical operators are used to perform some common mathematical functions. They are addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, modulus. This addition we can also use as concatenation if the data type is string. Now let's do some mathematical operations. Suppose int n equal to 100, n1 equal to 100 and n2 equal to 300, 1 plus n2. Print statement n1 plus n2. Let's execute the program. In console we can see the addition 300 plus 100 400. Suppose if you have string data type str1 hi, welcome to my channel. Let's do some string concatenation now. str1 plus str2. Now we got the text message here. If you want space in between hi and welcome, you need to give the space also. Let's rerun the code. Look, you can see the space here. This is the main difference between string and numbers. Now let's give quotations here. Look, it's asking to change the data type. If you come here and give the text without inverted commas, it also shows the error. Now let's do some of the operations. N divided by n2. Look, you got all the outputs here. This one prints the remainder after division. This is all simple math calculations using arithmetic operators. Hey, welcome back to Java Tutorials. In this tutorial, you will see what is relational operators and some coding examples. This relational operators does comparisons and returns Boolean value whether it's true or false. Relational operators are greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, equals, and not equals. Suppose int a equal to 100 and b equals to 200. Let's do a is greater than b. Now let's try a is greater than b or a is greater than or equal to b. Let's run the code. We got the output as false because a is not greater than b, right? Now let's run. So now let's run the code again. It prints true because a is less than b here. This equals operator compares those two numbers. If those two numbers are equal, then it prints true. Otherwise, it prints false. Look, The same thing applies for the string as well. Now we have same equal two strings here. Let's run the code. It prints true because it also works for numbers and strings also. Understand the comparison operator is very useful if you are writing very lengthy programs also. The last one we have like not equals to operator. A is not equal to B. We got true. Let's check with the string now. S1 is not equal to S2. We'll get false, obviously. Yes, look here. This is all about simple examples for relational operators. Hey, welcome back to Java Tutorials. In this tutorial, you will learn what is logical operators are with some coding examples. Logical operators compares two or more conditions and returns Boolean value. Logical operators are and, or, and not. This AND operator true only if all the conditions are true. Or means like if any one of your condition is true, it prints as true. Here the last one is not. If the condition is true, it prints false and vice versa. Let's understand more with coding. Suppose int result is 20. If result greater than 10 and let's copy this one. If result is less than 30 and results equals 20. Then we print number is 20. Else number is not 20. Let's say given number. Let's add given number. Save the code and run it. So you'll get the output as given number is not 20 because look here, there it fails the statement. That's the reason it's printing given number is not 20. Suppose if you give this one as 30. Let's see now. Look, the given number is 20. So the AND operator returns true only if all the conditions are met. Now let's change the operator. Let's put 0, 0 here because earlier we got false, right? Even though this condition is false, still it's printing true. Let's make this one also false. Not equals to. Rerun the code. Still it executes true. Even though we have two conditions fails, but still we are getting the same. Let's make all conditions false now. Now it's going to the else statement because here we have all the conditions are false. Then then only it goes to else statement. This is very simple coding example for logical operators. Hey, welcome back to Java tutorials. In this tutorial, you will see what is assignment operator and how we will use it in Java. The assignment operators are equals to, plus equals, minus equal, multiplication equal, division equal, and modulus equal. Now let's understand using an example. Here I created a class called assignment operator. Suppose int a equal to 10, int c equal to a. If you run the code, we will see c equal to 10. Now we will see in the console value 10. Even though we are not providing any value here, all we did is we just assigned a variable. That variable holding the value 10. This one is equals to operator. Now let's understand what is plus and equals. Int n equal to 10, a equals to a plus 3. Now let's execute the code calling a value. Now you can see a value is increased by 3 numbers because we are adding here. There is another shortcut way we can do this one. Now let's see, still we get the 13 value. Using plus and equals to, this is the short way of writing code. We'll also do the same thing for addition, multiplication, etc. Let's see some examples now. Look, this does the multiplication. We got the output as 40. Now you can see 30 divided by 10, it brings 3 value. So instead of writing lengthy code, these operators will make our work less. This is the simple examples to understand the assignment operator in Java. Hey, welcome back to Java tutorials. In this tutorial, I will talk about what is final variable in Java using one example. Basically, we need to understand final word is the keyword. If you use this final keyword, a variable, once it declared, we cannot change again. Suppose let's consider int a equal to 50, a equal to, if you want to increase the a value by 10, simply you can take that variable and add 10. We can also do this in a short way. Both this one and this one is same. Let's print now. Now let's see a equal to 60. So initially the a value is 50, right? Now we increase the value, so we will get 60. Let's see, if you add the final word here, you will immediately we will get the compile time error. and saying you cannot assign a variable to a final variable and make a not final. So it is suggesting either this should not be final, that is one option, or the second option is don't change the value. So this means a variable once it created, you cannot assign the value again. Suppose if you don't want to change the value even in future, that time we are gonna use a method or a variable for anything. We are adding this keyword. Hey, welcome back to Java tutorials. In this tutorial, we will see what is assignment operator and comparison operator in Java and difference between the both. Now you can see the assignment operator and comparison operator look like the same, but there is lot of difference when it comes to implementation. This assignment operator assigns a value, whereas comparison operator compares the given value and returns boolean. Now let's understand the concept using an example. Suppose int a equal to 40. If you print the a value, we'll see in the console. Now let's give a equals 40. When you run the code, you will see a boolean result here, true. Suppose if you change the number, now you can see we got false. The first equals to is assignment operator and these doubles equals is comparison operator. Now let's understand using one more example. Just for a change, I'm taking string here. And I'm taking here boolean for comparison. Let's print str and bool. Bool means boolean. Run the code. See, you'll get the true value here. Here I'm taking a variable and printing. Instead of this big line, you can short the code. Pretty much it does the same operation, but this is instead of we assigning a variable here and printing a boolean value, here I'm directly checking using comparison operator. This is one practical example to understand the difference between what is assignment operator and comparison operator. I hope you enjoy watching my tutorial. Hey, welcome back to Java tutorials. In this tutorial, I will talk about what is unary operator in Java and the difference between post and pre-increment using Java code. Unary operators are plus plus and minus minus in Java. This one is for increment and minus minus is decrement. The first one is for increasing the value and the next one is for decreasing the value. Increasing plus 1. This one decreases minus 1. Now let's talk more about while coding. Suppose int a equal to 5. Let's print the statement. Now we will get 5, right? Simply the a value it prints here. If you say a plus plus, then you can see 6. Now let's try for decrement operator. Now we will see 4 here. This is a simple example for increment and decrement operator. Now let's talk about what is pre and post increment. Let's run the code. In our previous example, if you're using the increment operator, we got 6, right? Now it's still printing 5. If you want 6, you have to write the code like this. Now you will get the output as 6. So basically what it does, the A value here first increases, then assigns the value. If you do like this, first it assigns the value, after that it increments. Only that is the difference. Other than that, pretty much same. You can also check with decrement operator. Look, we got only 5. If you give the increment operator before, let's save it and run. Look, now you are getting 4. So this is the main difference between pre and post increment. It's very important to remember as well. Okay, welcome back to Java tutorials. In this tutorial, you will see what is ternary operator and how simple it is when if compared to if-else statement with one good example. Basically, ternary operator is conditional operator. It takes 3 operands and results the value whichever is true. I can say it is also shortcut to if-else statements. Now let's look at example for better understanding. Suppose let's take a integer value n1 equal to 10 and n2 equal to, let's say it's 20. But let's try to write if-else statement so that it will be easy for you to understand. Okay, if let's write the condition n1 is greater than n2, if n1 is greater than n2, simply print n1, else print n2. Here n1 is greater than n2, no, right, it's false, so it prints n2. n2 means 20 here. Look, we got the 20 as output. Now let's try using ternary operator. This is the expression. You will get question mark n1, n2. This one is the expression. If the expression is true, it prints the first statement. If expression is false, it prints the next statement. Now let's run the code. You can see the same output 20 here. Is it simple, right? Instead of writing these 4 lines of code, you can write in a short way. Now let's try the same example using Boolean. Just declaring a variable. Just declaring a Boolean variable. N is greater than n2. Expression question mark. Print the value here. Let's run the code now. Look, now you can see the false here. So if ternary operator checks the expression condition, if it true, prints the first one. If it false, then it will go for the next one for execution. Hi viewers, welcome back to Java tutorials. In this video, I will talk about what is nested if-else statements in Java and one coding example for better understanding. Before that, I already posted how if-else statement works. If you haven't watched that one, please go back and check that video. Now let's talk about what is nested if-else statements. These statements are useful to test multiple conditions. Here I am taking student marks as example. Suppose a student get marks below 35, he fails. If he gets above 60, he gets first class. And if he gets above 75, he receives distinction. Now let's understand clearly while coding. Here I am taking marks as M. If marks is less than 59, then again it checks marks is less than 35. Just I am printing a statement here. Sorry, you got fail marks. Else, okay, got pass marks. Look here. First, I started writing one if-else statement. In that, again, I wrote one more if-else statement here. So, if this condition is true, then this will execute. If it false, then again I am writing one more if-else statement here. Please follow carefully. If you get above 75 marks, great, got distinction. Else, good, you got first class. Let's save the code and run. See the message now? Good, you got first class marks. Now if I change the marks, you can see like great, you got distinction marks. So what it does, first it checking the condition. If this condition fails, then it goes to else, where you got again one more condition. The condition is true, so obviously it printing this one. If this is not true, then the else statement will return. This is how the nested if else statement works. Now let's give fail marks. Save. You can see the message now. Sorry, you got fail marks. So now change the marks to 35. It says like okay, you got pass marks. This is how depends on our requirement. We should need to write and we should need to use the nested if else statements in Java. Hey, welcome back to Java tutorials. In this video, I will talk about what is switch statements and the usage of break and default keywords. These statements are similar to if-else statements, but the difference is we have only one loop here. And in switch statements, the expression is evaluated only once. All the conditions here are cases. If it satisfies, the associated block is going to be executed. These break and default keywords I will talk about more while writing the code. In this class I am taking one integer variable and using switch statement here, taking case 1 and case 2 and case 3. Let's assume these three cases are possible options here. Finally, default one. In this switch statement, we have three possible cases and one default one. This break is a keyword. It helps to break out of the block so that the rest of the code is ignored. This helps to save a lot of time while coding. So we have three possible cases. The last one is the default one. This default is also a keyword. This block executes if none of the cases matching. I hope you understand all the keywords in the program. Now let's to execute this one. We got section 1 now. Let's change the number here. Then it prints section 3. Right. If you give other than this, it obviously prints the default section. So you can observe here we have only one loop, in that we have many cases or many possible situations. If you want to add, you can add how many situations, depends on the requirement. This one is very easy to understand and easy to implement as well.
Hey, welcome back to Java Tutorials. In this tutorial, you will understand what is loops, syntax and types of loops in Java. In general, loops something looks like this, means doing same task again and again. Instead of writing same code many times, we can use this loops concepts. The advantages of using loops in coding saves lot of time and reduce errors, and the code is more readable and understandable. For example, if you are printing numbers from 1 to 1000, it's not possible to write all the numbers from 1 to 1000, right? So in that way you can say starting from 1 to 1000 print all numbers. So it's so simple. Now let's understand the syntax for the loops. We need starting point. This we can call as initialization, and ending point, this is like condition. Task means what needs to be executed. Increment or decrement, this one is useful for where to move, whether you have to go to next number or whether you have to go to backward. We already discussed this increment and decrement operator in detail while we were discussing about operators. There are three types of loops in Java. First one is while loop, second one is do while loop, and third one is for loop. For loop is very simple and handy, and we can also observe most of the programmers use this for loop. Now let's talk about types of loops one by one. The first one is while loop. The syntax of the while loop is, first we need to initialize the variable. This is starting point, I mean. Then we need to give the condition. If the condition is true, then it performs the execution of the code. In addition, we also give increment or decrement operator. This is pretty much the basic syntax for the while loop. The second one, do while loop, also similar to the while loop, but the difference is do while loop first executes the code. We also have the initialization, means a starting point, then execution. After that we'll give the condition here. After that increment or decrement. We need to remember here one thing is the code must be executed at least once here. That is the main difference between while and do while loop. Now the important one is for loop. In for loop the syntax is like this. We have to give three parameters. The first parameter is starting point, second one is condition, third one is increment or decrement. If the condition is true, then we start execution. After looking these three syntaxes upfront, we can say this is easy and simple, and even while writing the code also you can observe that one. And for writing the code, it's easy to understand and more readable. That's the reason for loop is like handy. The next and important thing to understand is when to use for loop, while loop or do while loop. For is used if the number of iterations is fixed. If you don't know like how many iterations we need to do, in that case it's preferable to use while loop. And if the number of iterations not fixed. And also, if you need to execute the code at least once, in that case we need to take do while loop. This of course completely depends on the requirements. This is the basic and key information about for, while and do while loop. We'll talk one by one and we will implement one by one coding in my next tutorials.
Hey, welcome back to Java Tutorials. In this video, I will talk about what is while loop in Java and syntax along with that coding example. The benefit of using this while loop: executes the code many times as long as the specified condition is true. It saves time, reduces errors, it increases the readability of the code. The syntax of the while loop is like this. First, it initializes a variable or starting point. The next thing is it checks the condition. If that condition is true, then it executes the code. This is the basic syntax. Now we'll see the coding part. Usually, if you want to print the numbers, you have to print like this. So this one prints 1. If you want print 2, again you have to declare a variable, and let's say n1 equal to 2. Say again print n2. Suppose what if you want to print the numbers from 1 to 1000? It's not easy to write the code of 1000 lines, right? So in that case, we are going to use this loops concepts. This is the brief introduction about loops. Let's write the same example using while. First is initialization part. We need to initialize the variable, then while, and the condition. If you want to print, suppose up to 10 numbers, then print the number. So after printing one number, what it has to do, it has to go to the next number, right? That's the reason we are giving incremental operator. Save the code and run it. Now you can see numbers starting from 0 to 9. It's so simple, right, when compared to the previous one. It's not just for 10. You can give 100, you can give 1000, whatever you want, but the code is pretty straightforward. Got it? Right. Now let's do one more example. Printing even numbers using while loop and its statements. Let's take starting point is 1 and ending point suppose 100, while specify the condition here, start greater than or equal to end. If the condition satisfies, then write the statement start modulus 2 equal to 0. What does that mean? If the number divided by 2 equal to 0, then only print the number. What is the number here? It's the start. After printing the number, you have to increase this starting number using this plus operator. Then perform the same task again until the condition becomes false. Save the program and run the code. Now you can see all even numbers starting from 0 to 100. If the divider is 1, then we'll get the odd number. Formula is pretty straightforward, right? So these small examples makes us to understand better rather than trying to understand the big program initially. That's the reason I'm showing all the concepts or programs from the scratch. Hi viewers, welcome back to my Java tutorials. In this video, I will talk about what is do while loop and the difference between while loop and do while loop. with some examples. The benefit of using loops are it saves time because it executes the code many times as long as the specified condition is true. The syntax of the do while loop is first it executes the code once after initialization, then later it checks condition. This is the only difference between while loop and do while loop. While loop it checks the condition and executes the code, but do while loop first execute the code once, then it checks the condition. Let us understand more while writing the code. This is the example to print the natural numbers from 1 to 10. After initialization, immediately we need to write the statement here, print I, then we need to give the incremental operator because we are starting from 1 and gradually it needs to check one by one. After the execution point, you have to give the condition, save the code and run. Now you can see the natural numbers from 1 to 10. The code is pretty straightforward and very simple. If you want to print the numbers from 1 to 100, this is the same code, or if you want to print the numbers from 1 to 1000, this is the same code, or if you want to starting from 90 to 1000, this is the same code. Got it now? How easy and simple if you use these loops. Now let's try to write one more simple program for printing even numbers. We are starting from 1 to 100. This is the condition here. Before that, we need to write do statement. If start modulus 2 equals 0, then print the number. After printing the number, we need increment. At the end, we are giving the condition. This is the main difference between while loop and do while loop. And also we have one more difference. I'll talk that in a minute. Look, we got the even numbers from 1 to 100. The same output we will get it, right, even while writing do while loop or for loop. What is the different thing in do while loop here? I'll tell you that. So suppose if you give 1000 here, so obviously condition not gonna satisfy, right? If you run the code, still it prints 1000. The same thing if you can do in while loop or for loop, you're not going to see any result here. But do while loop, what it does, it executes the code at least once, even though the condition fails. That is the difference between while loop and do while loop. Hope you understand the concept very clearly now. That's all for today's video, guys. Hi viewers, welcome back to Java tutorials. In this tutorial, I'll talk about what is for loop, its syntax, and some coding examples. Using for loop, we can save a lot of time and reduce the errors, and it's more readable for viewers. If you use the loop, it executes the code many times as long as the specified condition is true. Let us talk more about while writing the code. The syntax for the for loop is very simple. It's just a one line of code, and that's the reason it is very handy, and most of the areas we can see the for loop code. This is a simple example to print the natural numbers. For open and close brackets, need to give the data type integer and variable starting from 1, and I is need to give the condition, suppose 20 I plus plus. If the condition is true, then this block of the code is executed. Save the code and run. Now you can see the list of numbers starting from 1 to 19. If you have seen my previous examples of while loop, do while loop, now you can feel like this is very simple when compared to those two. Now let's understand what is there inside for loop. This is initialization, means the starting point. This is a condition. I can also say this is ending point. This is incremental operator. You can also give decremental operator as well. That time it should start from highest point to lowest point. Now you can see, if you run the code, you can see starting from 20 and ending to 1. This is how the decrement operator works. Depends on the requirement, we can use these operators, frankly. If you go back, you can see now all the natural numbers from 1 to 20. Suppose instead of increasing 1 by 1, you can also increase to 3 points at a time. Look now, 1, next adding 3 points, next again adding 3 points, next again adding 3 points. That's how these operators work here. Hi viewers, welcome back to my Java tutorials. In our previous tutorials, we have seen what is for loop, while loop and do while loop with some examples. In this video, I will talk about how to use break and continue statements in the loops. As we know, these loops allows us to execute the code many times as long as the specified condition is true, right? But this break statement is used to jump out of the loop. Instead of jumping out of the loop, we can use continue so that we can break only one iteration. You'll understand once writing the code exactly what it does. This is some simple for loop. This prints natural numbers from 1 to 10. Let's run the code. Look, we will get the list of numbers from 1 to 10. Suppose you don't want to be iterate after 7. Without changing the main code, you can still write like this. Still, you can give the condition saying that I don't want after 7, like this. But without changing the code, we can use this keyword and write it. If I is equal to 7, break. Look, even though you are giving the condition go forward up to 10, but because of this break statement, when we reach the number 7, it breaks the statement and prints the 6. Sometimes we don't want to break the entire loop, we just want to skip only the 7. But rest of the stuff we really need it. In that case, instead of using the break, use this continue. Now you can see we got all the numbers except 7. But this and all for specific examples, or I can say specific requirements. It's always good to know instead of rewriting the complete code. Wherever there is a need, we can use it directly. That's all for today video guys. This is a very simple example to understand what is this break and continue keywords. I hope you enjoy watching my tutorials. Happy learning. Stay tuned. See you in my next video.